Hi, this is Kitty Wilkin of Night Quilter. I want to talk to you a little bit about fussy cutting for color placement. In one of my previous videos about filling out the rainbow for your Pollinate Quilt English paper piece pattern, I mentioned having an open mind when selecting fabrics. I said that because the size of the shapes mean that the colors that you're selecting can be very specific. So from this fabric, which is Flip from Allison Glass Road Trip for Andover Fabric, Flip in the Lucky colorway, there are many different color transitions that you can get from the same fabric. I can focus on a gold and a red, or a gold and orange. I can emphasize the pink and the purple a little bit more. I can sort of get a pink and a red, which is what I'm going to go for today. And just moving the template around, you can get an idea of the different designs you can make. What I like to do when I'm fussy cutting, I'm kind of a visual person. So I like to begin by sitting down with the fabric all laid out. I get my template. This is shape D because I'm making a pie hex for my Pollinate quilt. And I just start moving it around. When I'm looking at the different motifs, I think of where things will land. So for example, if I'm going to cut 6 of this shape, I start trying to visualize the secondary designs that will happen. So like this center, it'll be 6 circles with bumps. It'll be kind of like a fun shape in the center. These will join into little half moons. This will line up there. Kind of looking at symmetry of the shape. And this motif has really great symmetry. And it also has reverse if you'd like to do mirror image. But I think about all of those things first before I cut anything. Then once I find a motif I like, for example, when I was looking for a transition between, between purple and pink, I was like, oh, this is perfect. There's so much pink, there's purple, it's a little bit dark, which brings it more toward the purple side. And so I used this shape right here, and see where it is. I cut 6 of them, and I created this perfect transition from purple to pink. And you can see how awesome it looks when you cut the same shape, no matter where it is, really, no matter where it is. And I've been experimenting with fussy cutting with this pattern, fussy cutting prints that look entirely tone on tone that don't need to be fussy cut. But if you just take a little bit of extra time to intentionally cut the same part of the pattern repeat, I feel like always the result is stunning. And so here's more of a pink and purple transition. This is going to be used in the pink and purple transition in my quilt. But right now, what I'm going to show you is I'm looking for a transition between pink and red. So here are my pink and red stars. I have a pink and red over here. Now I'm looking for a pink and red over here. It's kind of a combination of 2 to help fill out this pink and red area. And looking at this fabric, I figured, all right, I can find a pink and red section here. And so looking around, the most red I get is from the shield. And sure, it's a little bit lighter. It's not like as bold and bright of a red as the main fabric of the insignia print, but it's near identical. It's probably pretty much identical to the little motif. And so because of that similarity, I decided, all right, this is going to work. This is going to work. So what I want to emphasize is the shield, and then, all right, where can I get pink that's not too much yellow? So at first I thought, all right, well, that'll be nice, but that's an awful lot of yellow and gold. What I really want to emphasize is the red and the pink. And so I just rotated it a little bit and thinking about the pink in the wing. Now it's a little bit of a purplish pink, but since that's the direction we're headed anyway, I'm okay with that. Looking at these motifs, I decided to try to do a mirror image fussy cut of a wing. So I'll do a wing mirrored with the other wing and see how that comes together. Now, one thing with a print like this is the center motif. I have a ½ yard of fabric, but with a ½ yard of fabric, I will most likely not have 6 of the same center motif. I might come awfully close. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. You might come awfully close, but if you're trying to flip back and forth, you might not get 6. And so what I like to do a lot of times is alternate between 2. With a fabric like this, it's really fun to do because everything's the same except that center motif. So I picked the 2 most symmetrical you know, roundly symmetrical shapes, and I went with the plus and the circle. I started off with the circle because I feel like that can join with anything. And I found a spot that I thought I liked. I really want to emphasize the little gold swirl because I think that will look really neat as a repeat pattern. And so first I cut a wing. I've got my first piece. Easy part's done. Now it's figuring out how to get another piece that will line up perfectly. What I like to do is I often will cut my first piece, completely baste it, and then bring it to the fabric to find my next piece. And so what I did here is I cut my circle, and then I slid it right down, noticing this right here, trying to get it right, just right, keeping the point in the center more or less, and then lining it up so that that center motif would line up. Now with a shape like this, where your sides are not symmetrical, these are not exactly the same. So while I want this to line up, I also want this other side to line up. It's important to flip and see how that works. If you notice here, that's not really lined up over there. So if I had cut, it would not be perfectly symmetrical. So then with it flipped over, I'm gonna line it up again. And again, looking at the edges, because that's where your shapes are gonna meet. Kind of find where I can line them right up. I get that in there, that there. You can see here it meets perfectly, here it meets perfectly, here it meets perfectly, here it meets perfectly. And once you've got that in place, then you put down your acrylic template right around my basted shape. I often will just leave my basted shape there, and I'll cut right around the template, get my second piece, baste it, and then test it out. So let's test it out. How does this work? That looks pretty cool. I'm happy with that. Looking at the center, trying to visualize how it'll look with two other identical pairs. I kind of like how it'll be a big circle and a small circle, and then a big circle and then a small circle. That'll make a really neat secondary pattern in the center. That side I'm happy with. Let's see what it will look on the other side. Yeah, that side's pretty awesome too. So that's how I decide that, okay, these are pieces that I want to cut. I need to cut 2 more of each of these pieces. Now that I've done the hardest part, what I usually do is I just take this piece, lay it right down on top of my fabric, make sure everything lines up perfectly. Like I'll take a really good look, make sure it lines up around all the edges. My pattern repeat is exactly on top of the fabric. Then I will place my acrylic right on top, making sure nothing shifts. Make sure I'm on my cutting mat. And then I will carefully cut around. Nothing from my original piece is sticking out, so I'm not trimming off anything important. Close your rotary blade always. But then there I have, and I folded it down. Didn't quite cut far enough. So what happens when you talk. And it probably also means I need to change my rotary cutter blade. A little bit under there. A little bit there. Yep. And I also don't do what I do. Do what I say, not what I do. I cut my fabric folded over. Yikes! Okay. With your fabric all the way straight, then you do what I just did. And when you baste it, be extra careful since you took all of that time being meticulous with your cutting. Be meticulous with your basting as well. Make sure that paper is exactly centered. Baste the shape. Test it out. Make sure it looks good next to your next one. If it doesn't, take the time to unbaste it and straighten it out a little bit. It will be worth it in the end when you have a perfect pie hexie of the most meticulously cut secondary pattern coolness right plopped in your Pollinate quilt. Hope that's helpful, and happy fussy cutting!